is the Selectmen's meeting for April 8th, 2010. First order of business, salute to the American flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
All in favor? Approval of the minutes of last
Motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting as written.
Second.
All in favor? Signing of the warrant. Done.
Read that?
Yep.
No.
Done. Under old business, cable committee report.
First of all, I need to...
Would you please state your name for the...
Carol Long,
cable
studio
audience?
manager. I need to let people know that fairly soon Andrew will be getting a job because we're coming into the summer, which means that I don't have a camera person. I do still have Brian Cochran, but he works a lot of hours at his paying job and can't always come. So I urge people to consider learning the camera. People are really enjoying having all these meetings on Channel 26, and if we don't have a camera person, then we're not going to be able to film all the stuff. So please, if you know anybody that is looking for a volunteer opportunity or getting to learn the camera or helping in the studio, please have them let us know. We filmed the town meeting, and I'm working to get that turned around and on the air, by hopefully Saturday, so that it gets to air a couple of days before the school vote on Tuesday. We're up to date on the warrant and finance meetings. I have a Selectmen's meeting that still needs to be aired, and another Selectmen's meeting that needs to be re-aired. But other than that, things are going well.
Let me take this opportunity to make also very clear that on occasion, when the meetings are being uploaded to the channel, please correct me if I'm correct, sometimes that feed interrupts. And so you will have a meeting that will suddenly cut out halfway through. It is not deliberate. It has happened before, and the meeting that's going to be re-aired is one that happened on about 20 minutes into the meeting. It just cut out. We don't know that until the meeting is aired on the television. So March 25th will be re-aired at some point with the feed is able to go through. And it has happened before?
It has happened before, and when it's happened in the past, I've urged people to please let me know. I have no way of knowing if the meeting uploaded in its entirety until it airs at a scheduled time. I do not watch Channel 26 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I do watch it. I did have cable installed in my home for this reason, so that I could watch it. But I do not watch every meeting at home, and so please, instead of complaining amongst yourselves, pick up the phone, call me, email me, let me know this has happened, and I can correct it.
Could
Okay.
you briefly discuss how you edit, or if you edit any of the meetings, especially the Selectmen meetings?
Okay. I have never edited any content out of any meeting. All meetings air from the time the gavel bangs to open the meeting to the time the gavel he bangs the gavel to close the meeting. We do not cut anything out in between, and that is the same for warrant and finance, school committee. We have discussed sometimes when these meetings get into 3+ hours, whether or not someone at home wants to sit through the whole thing or if we should cut it down, and we decided that if the people that sat here in this audience sat here for 3 or 4 hours, then people at home should have the same right. I feel very strongly about that. We do not edit anything out. If there was ever a time when there was something that was inappropriate to be on the air on Channel 26, if somebody, went on a swearing tirade or something of that nature, we would edit it out, and we would always put a thing at the end saying, this much was, this was edited out for vulgarity and so on and so forth. But no, we never edit anything, cut anything out, no matter how embarrassing it might be.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I might tell you that one time she wanted to edit it because the camera caught her bent over backwards, and Scott wouldn't let her edit it.
Thank you. I'm telling everybody.
Hi, Tracy Scully. I just want to make sure or have a guarantee that the April 1st meeting is going to be aired before the vote on Tuesday, because I was here at the last meeting and Carol did say that that meeting would be aired, and it has yet to be on TV, and I know you said there was a glitch, so
Yeah.
I want to make sure, because Sherry Smith's presentation is very important for the public to see before that vote.
I think that what I just said was that I have one selectmen's meeting left to air before the Tuesday vote. That's the one, the most recent one. People need to understand the process. Right now, with it being budget season, Warrant and Finance Committee meetings run 3 to 4 tapes, which each tape is an hour. Selectmen's meetings run 1 to 3 tapes. The school town meeting was a couple tapes. Every tape that camera films needs to be copied onto a DVD, and that happens in real time. So and I'm not trying to confuse anybody, but I think it's important that people understand the process. So a 3-hour meeting takes 3 hours to get off from the tapes and onto a DVD. Then each DVD gets imported to the computer. For a 1-hour DVD, it takes approximately 20 minutes to get imported. So a 3-hour meeting would take an additional hour to import. Then I need to put all the pieces together, edit it, put the title at the beginning and the copyright at the end, and cut out we run 30 seconds at the beginning and the end to have a little play time so that we're not starting the meeting just as the gavel's banging. Once that is done, I burn the meeting in its entirety to a DVD. So a 2-hour meeting takes about 20 minutes to burn to a DVD. A 3-hour takes longer, a 1 hour takes less, but let's say 20 minutes is the average. Once that final one is burned on a DVD, I have to turn around and import it to this Legitronics switch. So it gets imported to the switch, which takes another 15 minutes to a half hour. Then after that, I have to upload it to the schedule. That takes about 10 minutes. So this is the holdup. My position is intended to be a part-time position. For every meeting, there are hours worth of processing. Not that I'm sitting at the computer working on it for hours, but there's hours of importing, exporting, burning DVDs, uploading, just all this stuff. And when you have 5 meetings in a week that have run a couple hours, you have to do them in the order that the meetings came in, that they occurred, and we try to get them on. I've told everybody it's around a week turnaround right now because of the number of meetings. Then on top of that, we don't have camera people. So I have to film Warrant and Finance meetings, I have to film the talent show, I have to film this and that. So that takes away from my time in the studio. I encourage people to learn the camera so that piece is taking off of my shoulders, so that I can dedicate 100% of my time being in the studio. Until some volunteers step forward and show an interest in learning the camera, as long as I'm having to go out and film, there will be a 1 to 2 week turnaround on the filming, because there are only so many hours in the day. And I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that.
Are we also looking for some volunteers that could learn how to do some of this uploading and so forth?
Absolutely. The only thing, if you look at my job description, I'm supposed to maintain the office function in that studio, and I'm supposed to upload things to the schedule. Nowhere in my job description does it say I'm the official editor of any media that comes into the studio. That's just something that I've taken on due to lack of volunteers. The studio manager is supposed to coordinate equipment use, coordinate the schedule, and things of that nature. It was not intended for me to be the camera person, the editor, the producer of every film.
So we need volunteers for the camera, and we also need volunteers for the in-studio. So if somebody's not
Absolutely.
interested in learning the camera, but they like computers,
Yep,
that might be a good place for them to
absolutely.
volunteer.
Thank you.
Carol, I got one more question for you.
Yeah?
Because I don't remember. Is there any funding, or did we discuss it all? I thought we did, possibly having these be like a small stipend position for camera people?
Absolutely.
Paid by the hour?
When we had one person that was they were the only ones filming, and they were coming out, it was budget season last year. They were coming out 4 to 5 days a week filming, and we did give them a stipend.
Of course, that's through the cable money.
That is the cable money.
Yes, through cable
That's
money.
in our budget. We have money set aside if there is an individual, like Brian Cochran, who has, countless hours. Brian has declined a stipend. He does not want it. He's just thrilled to get to play with the equipment because that's something that he's interested in. If there was somebody that stepped forward and really, invested a lot into it, there is money for stipends. I'm not saying you're going to get a weekly paycheck or get rich off from it, but, there is money in the budget to cover this stuff.
Thank you.
Tracy Scully again. I guess this is for Carol. Carol, if someone was to volunteer, what is the best time? When are you usually here? What are the hours?
Currently, the studio is open Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 5:30 to 7. The studio is open from 10 to 12 on Saturdays. Those are public, the open to the public hours for people to come in if they were interested. If somebody was interested, they could come into the studio during that time frame, and it's flexible. If it's a day during the week, then I could, be here with them, on a weekday. If it's an evening, if it's a Sunday, Saturday, I'm here 7 days a week. So whatever would be convenient for the volunteer, I could work around that.
Okay. And can I have a guarantee from you that Sherry Smith's presentation will be shown before the vote?
I cannot give you that guarantee, Tracy. I have every intention of that going on tomorrow. Every intention. It is dubbed, it is uploaded, and ready to be edited right now. But I'm not going to guarantee you because...
But you'll be here Saturday morning?
I will be here Saturday
Can I come
morning.
Saturday morning and help you?
Yeah, I'll be here Saturday morning.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, under new business, discussing Article 7, which is to see if the town will authorize the selectmen to use monies from the unappropriated surplus fund for the purchase of equipment with the advice and consent of the Warrant Finance Committee. Maximum expenditure to be no more than $5,000. Article's up for discussion.
We had wanted to discuss this because during the fire trucks needing to be purchased, we had, I believe one of our meetings, talked about how the $5,000 figure might be too low, that equipment at this point is more expensive. The $5,000 figure, if we had had a $10,000 figure, we would have been able to purchase the fire trucks without the firefighters needing to put their stipends up for grabs. Just a conversation. Do we think that it should be raised? Do we like it being at $5,000? How do we want to approach it from there?
Well, I think personally it should be more money, but I'm not sure what the dollar amount should be.
I think that as long as we're, it is with the advice and consent of the Warrant and Finance Committee. I think that it's also a town meeting warrant article, so at town meeting, should people disagree with us that it shouldn't be higher, they'd be able to lower that at town meeting by making an amendment. So I think that when we're writing out the warrant, if we decide what we think a reasonable figure is, we put that into Article 7. If the townspeople disagree with us, they'll let us know, and we'll knock it back down to 5,000. But if they agree with us that it is reasonable to have a higher figure, then I think we should toss one in either 7,500 or 10,000, either one.
How long has it been 5,000?
Mr. Chairman, that's what I was just going to say. It's been 5,000 for a long time.
Like 10 years, 20 years?
We know from experience that this is,
It's not going to buy
by
anything.
today's standards, not enough money When we talked over this, and I said to Dennis, I thought that the selectmen should at least consider putting $15,000 into that account. Now, as Larissa says, if the town meeting feels that's too much, they can change it at town meeting. But we know from experience that $5,000 doesn't buy what it used to.
That's what I was kind of thinking, either $15,000 to $20,000 would allow us to be able to not have these pieces of equipment sneak by us, you know, because again, even $15,000 doesn't buy much. So do we got to make a decision on that tonight? Do you feel?
Yeah, I mean,
I think we should.
Yeah.
Why don't we make it $15,000 and then let the town decide if that's what they'd like us to have?
Yep, fine with me.
And I think in the whole time I've been a selectman, I think we only did it once, was this time.
Yeah.
We never used it at all ever unless there's something really good that comes up, so.
And this is certainly, because it has to be done with the advice and consent of the Warrant and Finance Committee, it doesn't mean that the selectmen have $15,000 to buy new desks. You know, it is something that is meant for a fire truck that we find on a really good deal or something along those lines. It's not going to be able to be abused on things that do not actually benefit the town, so.
Okay. Any question or comment on Article 7? Okay, going on to number 2, which is a town mailing. We will be making a town mailing, which is going to have Sherry Smith's proposal, or Sherry Smith's presentation, the paper on that, and also just the fact that we're reminding people when to vote. And this has come from a long time. We've discussed this over the last couple of years. You know, when you ask someone, did you vote? And they say, I didn't even know there was an election for anything. Okay, so, and I asked, it bothered me, you know, and I asked a lot of people, and they said, we need something sent to the house, we need something mailed to the house. They don't, some people never read the newspaper, some people do not watch cable TV. And some people, of course, don't have the cable channel. But I think that a mailing, so we're going to use this as twofold. We'll have that presentation that Sherry gave, which was excellent and very factual, and we'll also have the dates, just a sheet of paper saying these are the dates to vote for the town. And that's it. There's no opinions or anything like that. It's just a public information type mailing. So that will be sent out tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Sent out tomorrow, I think.
And it's 3 pages. It has the spreadsheet that Sherry provided, a
Yep.
letter from Sherry, and then the 3rd page is the upcoming
that.
dates of the election.
Well, it's 2
Yes.
pieces of paper.
Right, front and back.
Yeah.
And then, right. Okay, so it is very factual. There are no opinions expressed. It is simply just what Sherry provided for us last week. It has the total proposed budget, municipal and school. It has what that equates to as mill rate ranges. She factors out what the average mill rate is for each increment of spending and what that would mean for a change in taxes on a bill, and she puts down a $100,000 house, $200,000 house, $300,000 house, and $400,000 house. And on the reverse side of that spreadsheet, she has written a very nice, concise explanation of how a mill rate is attained. It's, again, there are no opinions expressed, and the 3rd sheet of paper lists the upcoming votes.
Yeah.
So it is very just, here are the facts, and no opinions on them.
Mary
Mary.
Stanton, I just have a question about how much this is costing the town in postage / paper.
Whatever it's costing, it's well worth it. I don't have the exact figure.
I was thinking it was around $500 or something.
I would agree between
Whatever
$500
it
and
is,
$600. There's 1,200 copies going out at 44 cents a copy in postage, and then you would have 2,400 photocopied sheets, and the labor of Linda for the last probably 2 days worth of labor for Linda between photocopying and folding and stuffing and so forth. So I don't think it would break 600, and like I said, it is, we have the money available in the postal account. Nothing is being overrun as a result of sending the mailing, and the information in the mailing is simply, you know, the equivalent of the sky is blue, the grass is green.
Money well spent to put the facts out there.
Yes.
It's a continuation of the selectmen staying neutral and just putting the facts out there to the public. And obviously the public would like to have the facts, and I've said all along that I feel it's a selectman's responsibility to put the facts out there so that people understand when they vote how much money it's going to cost them. And that's why we're doing it. And we said for a long time we're going to do it. And I'm glad we are.
Okay. Number 3, we have Mr. John Moore. Talk about referendum questions.
John Moore. Tuesday next, April 13th, there's 2 questions on the ballot. I'm here to discuss the second question, not the first. The first, you all will have all sorts of information. You vote as you see fit. But the second question refers to the referendum that now will be the last year that the state mandates that we have to do it, and we have an option to continue it for another 3 years. And I feel as though we should continue it for another 3 years, and I would recommend that people vote to continue it. The reason I say that is on Tuesday at the school, there was a town meeting regarding the school budget. 94 people voted, 4.5% of the registered voters in the town voted on a $5 million budget. At the last 2 referendum votes, there was a 20% or a 25%, depending on which year you take, turnout. Now, I think it is more appropriate to have this referendum to back up the school town meeting, if you will, to give more people a chance to speak their mind. A lot of people couldn't get to that meeting on Tuesday. It's a Tuesday night. Some people don't drive. People work. People have family issues. But next Tuesday, we have 12 hours to let people speak their mind. So I think it's a good idea that we have that referendum every year. And what we're asking is to renew that for 3 more years. So that's it.
Any further question or comment on that issue?
Mary Stanton. I would recommend that we do not continue this for another 3 years. This is something that the state handed down to us. We were fine going along at all our town meetings that were held on a full day on Saturday, going over everything, and people who want to vote and want to come out will do that. I don't think we need to set this up for a referendum vote. I don't think it serves any purpose except people hiding behind a curtain. Thank you.
Carl Hodgson. I think Mr. Moore is right. We absolutely need that. And the reason that we need that is because historically there's been a very, very low turnout in this town for an open town meeting, particularly when it has anything to do with a school, because people are intimidated when the school loads the hall with their aunts, uncles, and cousins of everybody that works in the place, and it turns out that there's about 10% of the people in that room that have the courage to raise their hand and vote the way they feel. If you have a referendum vote, the people go in the booth, there's no one to intimidate them, they can vote their mind. And it's worked very well, and I would also encourage the public to come out and support that referendum vote. I think it's extremely important to the community as a whole. Thank you.
Okay. Going to number 4, we have an announcement. We do have a sex offender that has come to town. Detective Hayes of the Sheriff's Department has brought up to the Selectmen a posting. I can't say the name and so forth right here, but the posting is right out here on the front bulletin board in front of the clerk's office.
At the post office.
And it's been posted at the post office and other places. It's a very serious sex offender. there's about 88 registered sex offenders in York County, he's in the top 5. Okay? And basically, you can get that information out here, and that's all that we can really say about it. Okay.
Also on our town's website, if you scroll down, you can link directly to the Maine State Sex Offender Registry. When you click on there, if you type in Acton and search, you will have all of the sex offenders that are in the town of Acton will come up on there. There will be photos, and you can link to a description of their crime so that you can decide how dangerous they are to you and your family.
You know, I got to be careful what I say, but I still want to say one more thing. When a sex offender has rights to live in certain places, but I just thought it was a very poor choice that they allowed him to move onto a road that has 14 children and so many women living by themselves in a very, very remote rural area of this town. I think it's a very poor choice that they allowed this man to live there. And I think at least we have the right to say that. But educate yourself, educate everyone you know, let them see that picture, and tell them that this guy's in town, and keep an eye on him. And be very careful.
Would you just say again, Larissa, how to find Acton sex offenders?
You will go to actonmaine.org. It's all spelled out. That's the town's website. If you scroll down towards the bottom of the page, there's a series of links. The very last link is to the Maine State Sex Offender Registry. If you click on that link, the page that opens up will ask you you can search by different items. Name is the first, town is the first one, so you can simply type in the town of Acton, and that's all you need to type in. When you hit search, the names of the sex offenders that are living in Acton, the registered sex offenders that are living in Acton will pop up, and when you click on those names, you can then find out what they look like, and if you continue on those links, I believe that their addresses pop up as well.
Okay. Any question or comment on that issue? Okay. Going on to number 5, Mary Waterhouse. I'd like to talk about the library floor. The floor of the library, is that what it is? That's the floor?
I'm really not quite sure either.
Okay.
I have a few concerns about the floor in the library and where the library's responsibilities are within the books and not within the structural building. I did some research, and I wanted to bring the information that I found to the Board of Selectmen. I found first of all, the concern is pretty much in the middle of the floor. If you were to walk in the library and you would go between the first 2 columns of books, you would notice right off that the floor dips. If you walk any faster than a walk, you'll notice that the shelves move and the books will fall. And this has become an increasing issue over the years, and I have to assume that this paper that I have here, which was a suggestion for the floor to get fixed, was either in the mid-1996, 90, somewhere around there, or 2001. And at that time, it did address the issues of the floor. But I haven't been able to find in any of the notes posted from the Board of Trustees that this was accepted and it was fixed. And I even have pictures of what it looked like back then. I don't have any current pictures. So what I did was I asked Pat Stevens to come in and take a look underneath the floor to see, what type of damage we were looking at. And he wrote up an estimate. And I don't have copies of it, but I do have the original estimate if you'd like to take a look at it. I also have the estimate that was given, and unfortunately there's no date, so I really do not know, but I can let you look at those. It's definitely not something that the library, the Board of Trustees of the library can afford at this time. However, I'm looking into grants and also possibly a donation to get that full part of the floor fixed.
This seems like an old one, I would assume. It was like, we have 2 here. One's for 1,900, 1,900.
Yes.
And the other one is 8,500.
That is the current one.
The current one's 8,500.
Yeah, that
So
was
we
the
could
one
go
that
with the
passed.
$1,900.
Well, yeah, we'll get the guy if he's still around.
Oh, yeah. And unfortunately, there's no date, so, but I did...
You know, basically, it's a town building. Okay, regardless of who's in it, it's a town building, and we should try to keep our town buildings in structurally sound. I don't think, is it too late for us to even put a special warrant article to ask for this money?
I don't believe so, because we haven't actually written the warrant officially up yet. I don't know what the date, is it 45 days before the meeting, the warrant needs to be complete? Do you know,
You know,
Dwayne?
you go by whenever the warrant finance committee is going to act on it too.
Plus, I'd like to get at least 3 estimates, not one, and,
But
I
I
don't-
haven't got all of the information in there in the warrant yet because I haven't got all of the budget figures in yet.
I don't know if we budgeted enough in our maintenance overall. I know we added a little
Absolutely
more,
not.
but we didn't budget enough in our regular maintenance to do
You can
this.
make it a separate article or you can just include it in your building maintenance.
Well, the problem with this is, to begin with, before you do anything like this, you're gonna have to have an engineer. Your engineer's gonna have to be involved with this. Every time you do a project today, we always have to have an engineer come in and do whatever they do.
Yeah.
And quite often that costs half as much as the job cost, if not more. So I don't disagree with doing the project. I don't want you to take it that way.
No, I don't.
What does need to be done?
I would like to ask permission of the selectmen if I could look into any grants or possible donations to start some type of a fund to where that we can move forward with trying to look into, you know, getting it repaired. And I realize that it's nothing that can be done right away, but the concern is there to where it should be.
I don't think you're gonna have a problem. You know, it's a timing right now.
Sure.
I think if we put this as even a separate warrant article, I think the town is gonna say fine. That's my opinion. But the problem is the timing for this warrant we may not be able to pull it off.
We could get on November if we needed to, if we couldn't get it on to June. Could we get, do you want the selectmen to get 2 more estimates, or do you want to have the library get 2 more estimates?
The selectmen are welcome to get 2 more
Okay.
estimates on how.
Well, I think this is it. The estimates that we need would be, have to follow the required work that was decided by an engineer. You know, a structural engineer would have to come in, and he'd have to do up the specs, shall we say. And then when you put the specs out, and that's when you get your estimates on what it's going to cost.
Okay, so if we were to first contact a couple of structural engineers, find
Right.
out what they would charge us to do the project, and then we can move from there. I can start making those phone calls tomorrow morning.
So I guess time gets away from you very easily. And, I mean, look at the town hall, for example. How long it took to get this project off the ground and to the people to vote on. It took a year. And like I said, I'm not against this at all, Mary. It's just, if we don't make sure we have all our ducks in a row and do everything by the book, that's where we get in trouble.
Could we estimate, I mean, if we have an estimate of $8,500 to get the work done, and you said that an engineer usually costs about 50% of the work's total, could we estimate that the project wouldn't exceed $15,000? And
The reason you can't do that, Larissa, I didn't mean to cut you off, apologize, but the reason why you can't do that, my experience with engineers, they have a tendency to go into much more detail sometimes than...
we need the specs before we can know.
Yeah, they look at stuff that, and one of these is from Pat Stevens, for example, and I know for a fact that Pat Stevens does very quality work. But that doesn't mean that he is going to satisfy what an engineer wants done. And what he wants to do probably would be just as good as any engineer, but we are stuck with those guys.
So let's start the process, and we'll do the best we can as fast as we can for you.
And that's basically, you know, what I wanted to let you know is that, you know, this is this is where the floor is at. There's an old estimate, and if you read at the very bottom, it does mention that if the solution wasn't done at that time, it would become more serious.
Oh, no, I appreciate that.
And so, it's just basically to say, I think we're getting to that timeline where it's going to start eventually getting more serious, and here's a difference in the cost now compared to back in the day when that first one was given.
Are you suggesting, Mary, that maybe the building is unsafe? That we need to, books are falling off the shelf when you're walking across the floor and things like that. I don't want you falling through the floor down.
I don't believe that the floor is unsafe in that respect, but what I am saying is that continual use, that eventually it will be to a point to where it will become unsafe. And so it's very important to bring it to your attention now, because it is going to take some time to get all of the pieces together so that we can finally get it repaired.
So we're probably looking at, I know this seems a long ways off, but if we had it on the agenda for next year, the reason why I say next year is because if we did put it on the warrant for November, not knowing what we're going to have for money or anything at that time, and that time of year, if some of the foundation need to be shored up and stuff like that, it'd be kind of hard to do in the wintertime.
Right.
I know it can be done, but it's, so you're looking at the following spring. So the difference between April and June really wouldn't be that much.
Is it possible, after you have an engineer come in, for me to be able to look for the funds so that it's not something that has to be put out to the taxpayers, or because it's a public building, it must go out to the taxpayers?
But we have the
It doesn't have to go out to the taxpayers, but it has to go out to public bid. It has to,
Okay.
something like the carpet, I noticed when I was down there, there's no reason why we can have somebody come in and cut the carpet and stretch it out.
Right.
So at least you don't have all the, it'd be better for a while anyway.
Ripple. Yeah.
But we'll definitely, I'm just talking for myself, definitely would work with you on this.
I think that where because the selectmen have the ability by an article on the warrant of last year to accept donations, fees, and grants to spend for the projects that they are awarded to. If you want to pursue them, because it's a town building and those grants then come to the town to be spent out, we have the authority to do that.
Okay.
But I would agree with Dennis that it would need to be done by sealed bid, so forth. So.
Absolutely. I would basically just want to know that I could be looking for the funding so that perhaps it could occur, the repairs could occur sooner rather than later, just so that it's not something that has, that gets time takes, whatever.
The first thing will be to get this engineer's report. That'll tell us everything, and then we can know what's before us.
Okay, absolutely. Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we can do in case there is any confusion, we can do a warrant article, I'm not quite sure how it would be worded yet, specifically to do this, to accept any grants or whatever for this purpose.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I do.
That way there wouldn't be any controversy if you got $150,000 to fix this building. Whether or not we had the right to use any of the money.
Right.
You know what I mean? So maybe we could just clarify that, even without any money, just the right to do that.
Well, depending on the type of grant, if you go for a specific grant that's already pretty much has the applications, then you have to go by what they request.
Right.
But if you write it yourself, then it can go for the entire building and just put in a big sizable amount with what needed to be done and itemized.
I just want to make sure, Mary, that if you go through all this work, that the town can take the money and spend the money where it should be without a mob coming up here and saying you did something wrong. That's all.
Right.
I think the only trick also, Mary, that I think is going to perhaps present itself is that the library is going to be able to access more grants than the town.
Right.
So you'd be applying to the grants as the library, but it is being done as a town building. So I'm not sure how that would work, and I'm not sure who we would even be able to check with to find out how that would work. I mean, from our side, we could certainly ask MMA, but I think a grant person would have a better idea about, can we funnel through somehow? When you're writing the grant, can you make it clear that the money is to support the library, because without a floor, the library cannot exist, but that the work will be being done officially through the town. I'm not sure how that would work.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to look into it.
And we can write together, like if
Yeah,
we need to write it.
absolutely.
But I would assume it'd be something like the gym, that was a town building, but it was a grant. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I'll definitely look into it, and when I find anything, we'll let you know before,
We'll definitely
I go
work on it.
forward. Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next, we have Mr. David Winchell for a report on the work that was done here at the town hall, right?
Yep. Dave Winchell Senior. In regards on the water line we dug up, I was driving by the town hall on a Saturday night, and I waved down and asked some questions. I'd worked on the water line before from the new line they put up between the two buildings, between the library and the walkway. I dug that, it had been 7 years ago probably. And anyway, we walked around, and so there was a leak, and I was kind of asked if I'd mind coming in and finding if we could find the problem and whatnot, and I did with my backhoe. And I want to say that we did find a leak. We didn't have to go over to any other spot, which that might have been pretty tricky. And the leak was right down by the well. It worked slick. Alan Goodrich, Beaver Hill Well Drilling, he come down there, and we dug that up and put it back together pretty slick. And I want to say I did have a load of material hauled in Sunday morning. My son Harvey from Turk's Pit hauled in a load of screen gravel, and you guys will probably get the bill on that for $100. That's bringing the gravel in, and he waited until I unloaded and reloaded the excess stuff, the rough, the clay and the rocks and whatnot, and he hauled that off for me instead of coming in and out. And I did have my backhoe there, a small tractor, and a man sweeping and cleaning up with me. But there will be no charge for me. I mean, it's what I can do, little I can do. And I hope I didn't cause too much. I didn't think I was out of policy. You know, I think there was a little ruckus about it that I might have been out of line doing it, but being 6 years road commissioner previously, in occasions other people have done work in that type of area, so I certainly didn't want to intrude in the wrong direction. So I just thought I'd make a point that there would be no bill for me.
Well, that's very nice of you. In a situation like that, it's the selectman's job to get this done as quick as possible and get the water back running, because there was no water.
Right.
So
My understanding, that night we looked at it, you could hear it, and it wasn't holding pressure, so 8 o'clock Sunday morning we were up there with the
And I think we are welcome to accept donations as they come,
yes.
in any form.
And again, David, I would like to thank you for doing that. And maybe that's something the Selectmen's office needs to look at, because there is no policy on how that works. I know since I've been in office, the policies in the policy manual has increased immensely, and there's still many more we need to look at. And maybe that's something we do need to look at. But on an emergency basis, sometimes you take who you can get. And I know from my own experience that the only people that dug the water lines around here is you and Gordon King. And before I saw you, I had talked to Gordon King, and he gave me some ideas, what he could remember, and so it was kind of a blessing that you did come by at the time, and I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A little bit more on the water, I believe it was Mary Stanton last week asked the cost of that. We got a bill from Alan, it was what, $1,600, somewhere in that area. And we got the bill for Turk for the gravel, and that was $100. So it was about $1,700. So it's a pretty good deal. Again, thank you, David.
Okay. Few announcements. We'll go in order of date. On, of course, Tuesday, April 13th, coming up is the school referendum questions vote, which will be here at the Town Hall like a regular vote all day. On April 15th, which will be Thursday, before the Selectmen's meeting at 7 o'clock, we'll start with the liquor license public hearing for a new liquor license down at Big Daddy's. And then on April 21st, we have a public hearing for the proposed zoning amendments that are going to be done, that are going to be on the ballot. So those are the 3 dates that we have coming up. Any further?
And I do want to say, Tony, before you leave that issue, the comprehensive plan people have done a lot of work separating out what's state law and what's not state law, and what's just John's law. And that information will be available, is available before the public hearing if anybody wants to be able to look at it.
When is it going to be ready?
It is, well.
It's ready.
The shoreline zoning differentiation between
They
state
haven't brought
and...
it in.
Yeah,
I've got my copy.
yes.
I don't have one.
They brought it in, you weren't here, Lorraine.
When did they bring it in?
Yesterday, day
Someone asked
before.
me, and I told them I didn't have it yet.
I'm sorry, Lorraine, I think you weren't, it was brought in and given to me.
All right.
I'd like to let the people know that I believe a week from Thursday is the 3rd Thursday of the month. Is that correct?
Yes.
I think so.
The 18th. We are going to have at the road committee meeting, tentatively, Joe Anderson is coming, and he's going to give some direction in the writing of grants to get money for some of these private roads and whatnot that people are having problems with. And I would urge anyone on these private roads, particularly those who have associations, to have someone present at that meeting and pick up as much information as they could.
Is that 6 o'clock?
That's at 6 o'clock.
So that's Thursday, April 15th.
I think it's the 18th, isn't it?
Next Thursday is the 15th.
Not next Thursday. Next Thursday would be the 2nd.
No, because we had, the first was the first one, today's the second.
This coming Thursday?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
April 15th at
Okay.
6 p.m.
That's it, right. Yep,
This coming Thursday,
Yep, 6
Right-
o'clock.
Right here.
right here. Yep.
Right here in this building.
Okay.
I thought next Thursday is 15th.
Yeah.
It is.
I thought he said the 18th.
Yeah, but
We had a
he
miscommunication.
misspoke, Lorraine.
It is going to
It's
be
the
the same
15th.
night as our meeting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or they're going to have
6
it
o'clock.
at 6?
6, yeah.
Larissa.
Couple other dates, being respectful of the turnaround time. The Acton Owls will be holding a pasta dinner to fundraise for themselves on May 1st from 4:30 until 6:30 p.m. here at the Town Hall. It is going to be a classic spaghetti supper. There will be $5 for adults, $2 for children between 5 and 12, and under 5 are free. Also, the school that evening will be having a play that's being presented, written by one of the teachers, Mrs. Driscoll. It is at 7 p.m. at the Acton Elementary School. Tickets for that, I believe, are $8 for adults and maybe $5 for students, but don't quote me quite on that. So you can do dinner and a show that night. If anyone's interested in doing so, I'd encourage them to do so. Secondly, I will not be here for the week of April School Vacation Week. I am taking my girls on an educational field trip that week. So just so that people know, I will not be around, and if they have anything they need me to do, please talk to me about that very quickly so I can get it done for you next week, and I will be back on the 23rd.
And there is a warrant finance committee meeting Monday night here at 6 o'clock. And on the agenda will be the roads and the treasurer. Monday night at 6 o'clock, if anybody's interested in seeing what's going on. Place is busy.
Yeah. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?